while in the past it certainly makes sense to me that you want a young population and a growing young population, is it at all possible that going forward this could be the opposite of the case? What I have in mind is AI. I mean, you might want to have a smaller population with less mouths to feed if this population is going to be less productive because the work has been displaced.
The Wall-E scenario, where we all just kind of sit around, watch TV. Uh, let's address that from the general approach and then get down to the specifics. So from the general, um, for that to work, we have to generate a fundamentally new economic model. So the models we have now, corporate fascism, command capitalism, European-style socialism, and capitalism of various flavors, all of those are based on managing the relationships between capital and labor and supply and demand. And to be perfectly blunt, we did not figure out the specifics of any of the four of those overnight. We're talking decades, in many cases, centuries of evolution in economic theory and application. Because from the point that you apply one, you never get it right the first time, and there's lots and lots and lots of iterations, and it can be painful. And to be perfectly blunt, we tend to argue about things like this, and we've had more than our share of military conflicts over economic theory. So we would need to invent something fundamentally new. I don't know what that looks like, but if you're talking about a post-scarcity environment where supply just magically appears, that's pretty loosey-goosey once you look at the mechanics. I'm not saying no, because we're talking about something that doesn't exist, but we're not going to get that in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or 50 years or 100 years, I would guess. Because all of it is based still on materials production, processing, manufacturing, and distribution, and there's limiting factors in all of that. Second, AI, as we understand it today, as we're hoping to understand it 10 years from now, is about information processing more than movement. We are still a significant distance away from having chips that you can put in an autonomous moving system, and that means no distribution. That means you could have static robots that are doing production, but that doesn't help with mining. That doesn't help with processing. That doesn't help with multi-step supply chain, which is how we do all of our manufacturing today, and doesn't help with distribution, servicing, or healthcare. So we need several iterations of AI and many, many more iterations of robotics to get to that point, and we're not close. Third, and I think this is going to short circuit this whole discussion, we're not going to be able to do AI at all. The chips that are necessary to do artificial intelligence are all under 7 nanometers, and the ones that show the most promise are under 3 nanometers. Any chip that is under 10 has a supply chain that is the most sophisticated and fragile of any supply chain humans have ever invented. There are 30,000 pieces. There are 100,000 supply chain steps. There are 9,000 companies, and there are over 4,500 single point failures in that system. So if one mid-sized country falls out of the coalition of 80 that are necessary to do these chips, the whole thing stops. And it's not going to restart until we have rebuilt that ecosystem in a new form that is more geopolitically stable and demographically sustainable. And we will not finish that process within 15 years. So I like the AI discussion. I really do. I'm actually kind of thrilled in this country that we're discussing the implications of a technology before it's here. That is not like us. But we've got until at least the 2040s to figure this out.
Just to clarify, so you don't consider ChatGPT to be AI? What do you have?
No, I think it is, but it's early AI, ChatGPT 4.0, which I'm an avid user of. I love the fact that there's a cat in this interview. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the podcat.
The let's see, where was I? I love ChatGPT 4.0, and I think some of the things that we're achieving with AI in terms of programming is great. The way it's displacing people who were semi-information based, things like paralegals and accountants, I think is interesting. I think it's something that we should obviously work on and move the chips as far as we can, as fast as we can. What I'm saying is there's a hard break coming. The chips that we use for AI are graphics processing units. They were designed for gaming consoles. They were not designed for AI, but they can run multiple things in process, and that's why they're good for application for large language models. We have yet to build our first true AI-designed chip. They're hoping to have the designs finished this calendar year. They are hoping to have your first facility in Taiwan making those chips by the end of 2027, and they are hoping to be able to make enough of those chips to start the first true AI data center by the end of 2029. So GPUs are tiny. They're the size of a postage stamp. The ones that are going to be designed to run on the servers are the size of a record, if you remember what a record is, a dinner plate, let's go with dinner plate, and has built-in cooling into it. The idea is that you drop the cost of operating per computation. That's almost certainly not going to happen. And we're not going to be able to continue making our sub 10 nanometer GPUs either. So what's probably going to happen is we're going to fall back to an older generation of semiconductor manufacturer that is not nearly as vulnerable to geopolitical disruptions. But the best chips we can make with those technologies are 14 nanometer. So we get chips that, from our point of view, are several years old, trying to run a current model on, and the processing capacity just isn't there. So where we are today will slip back. We might be able to still do Chat GPT 3.0 or 3.5 where we were about a year ago, but it will take 5 times as many chips to get the same speed, and it'll take 5 times as much power per chip to run it in the first place. So we're looking at like a 90 to 95% reduction in the efficiency of everything we do with AI. And that's a different world.
Speaking of it being nice that we're having this conversation about the implications of a technology that might not really exist yet in the United States, I find it amazing that being someone, I mean, as far as I'm aware, you're not somebody who is a computer scientist or a specialist in AI, but I find it awesome that you know about it in this detail
I
from an
look for
economics
fracture points,
perspective.
no matter what it happens to be. So, I look at the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35 and the Defense Department in the same system. It's a weapon system that was designed for a war we're never going to fight. And so it's pointless. AI is designed for a geopolitical environment that is dying. So I don't want to say pointless, but probably shouldn't have said that about the F-35 either. But it's not designed for the world we're going to be in. And there's a lot of things that fall into that category now.